All right, day 18 of the 30-day challenge to vlog every day for 30 days, share an idea. We're on Koh Samet tonight, and I'm with Kimji's dad and her niece. It's her dad's first trip to the beach and her niece's first trip to the beach. Um, so they flew in last night. It was also their first time flying, which is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome to have them come out and visit and have this experience with them. Um, Topic today will be kind of short because it's late again, but just talk a little bit about like economics and the dollar. Um, Basically, you know, the economy always works in cycles, right? So we're in kind of, I'm not sure if we're technically still in the biggest bull run in history or not, but we're in the biggest growth cycle in history. And typically, what happens when governments regulate monetary policy, at least in the West, is they fluctuate interest rates and they print money in order to help remove or help cure a recession. And the reason they do that is interest rates basically um, encourage or discourage saving money. So the higher the interest rate, the more they want people to save money. The lower the interest rate, the more they want people to spend money. But with inflation, it also encourages people not to save money. Because if they print money and the demand stays the same, but the supply increases, the value drops. And inflation is typically around 3%. But right now we're kind of in a unique period of history because for the last 80 years, the S&P 500 has returned something like, I don't know, 8 to 10% a year, minus 3% inflation. So you're looking at 5 to 7% a year. But I'm not so sure that trend will continue. And that's true for a number of reasons. I think globalization has allowed the US to eventually, I mean, one theory is that the US will eventually plateau and emerging markets will increase at a higher rate, in large part because there's so much more room for growth in emerging markets. And two, people are kind of losing faith in the governments. I mean, you see things like crypto, things like Bitcoin come into play, where people are kind of tired of having these big institutions control their lives and put a huge amount of trust in these institutions. And that, at a fundamental level, a dollar is only a dollar because we believe it to be so. And if we lose confidence in the dollar being a dollar, the dollar will inevitably, at least in the longer run, go away. Um, it's kind of a longer conversation. I'll save the crypto conversation for another video. But I think we're basically in the U.S. at least, and kind of in the Western world, if not the entire world, we're on the verge of a recession, and we've been on the verge of a recession for quite a long time. Interest rates are still relatively high. The dollar hasn't inflated a huge amount yet. Um, you can kind of look at the price of gold and silver throughout history because people hedge against the dollar or other currencies into gold and silver. Um, and as gold and silver go up, it typically means the dollar's inflating more, or some major currency is inflating more. And pretty much every sign currently in the West is showing that we're on the verge of a major correction. Um, so interest rates are high. You have the equities market. Basically, all the valuation of all these stocks is it's so expensive that it's almost not worth buying. And if you look at the big hedge funds, things like Bridgewater Associates with Ray Dalio or Berkshire Hathaway with Warren Buffett, these guys are basically stockpiling money because they say that there's nothing really worth buying in the modern world today. Now, at the same time, they also offer the advice that you should never try to time the market because you never know what's going to happen. This bull run could last for another 10 years or it could crash tomorrow. We don't really know. But it is kind of an interesting time in history because yes, we're on the verge of a recession and it could last another 10 years or it could crash tomorrow. But we're also in a stage where you have things like crypto coming into existence and people losing trust in governments and institutions and wanting to kind of decentralize things. And you also have this globalized world where we're not stuck in one nation state or one government, kind of like I talked about yesterday with politics and taxes. But the whole worlds are kind of our oyster, where you can go more or less anywhere and you can buy more or less any currency you want and set up a bank more or less anywhere as well. Um, You can go down to Belize and open a bank account, and they'll be glad to accept your money. Now, why would you trust Belize over the U.S.? That's a whole conversation in itself. But I think we're at an interesting point in history where I'm not so sure the last 80 years are going to repeat itself for the next 80. And I think emerging markets should get a lot more attention because you have places like Southeast Asia, where I'm at now, that are exploding in growth. And they have a huge amount of growth to come. And you also have the same thing happening in the U.S. though with growth. But I think to expect the U.S. to stay a superpower for the next 100 years, I think is highly debatable, and it makes sense not to keep all your eggs in one basket, right? Like my kind of theory is, in the unknown, you should diversify, spread your risk. It's worth taking a lot of risks, but it makes sense to spread your risk. And in this globalized world, it's very easy to diversify and buy foreign stocks or foreign currencies or open foreign bank accounts or even get a foreign passport. Um, it doesn't make any sense to keep all your money in the U.S. dollar or the U.S. stock market. Whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, it makes sense to diversify. And I think the U.S. dollar is up for a major correction. I think there'll be a lot of inflation, and the price of gold and silver will go up because people are going to hedge against it. And I think the U.S. economy will go into a recession um, in the relatively near future, whether it's a year or 5 years from now. And that will also affect the rest of the world. But I think like I said in one of my earlier videos, life's a game to play, and when it comes to investing and kind of just living off of the wealth you have, it makes sense to diversify across the world because there's a lot of opportunities out there. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. That'll be it for day 17. I will see you all tomorrow for day 18.